everyone, and welcome to Nikon Australia and the Next Chapter. My name is Chris Dalton and I'm Professional Markets Manager. Today we have two amazing Z Creator guests. We have Gigi and Kristine Fernandez. Thank you guys for joining us and welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Now today we're going to talk about 2020, we're going to talk about creative briefs and also your experience with the Z Series. So let's get into it. So first let's talk to Kristine. So Kristine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Kristine. I'm a photographer and a content creator for brands. I use the Z50 and the D750 for my content work.
Amazing. Gigi, what about you? Whereabouts are you based and what do you do?
Hey, my name is Gunawan. It's a bit hard to pronounce, so people call me as Gigi, which is a lot easier and I love it. And I'm based in Sydney. I'm not sure if I said that already, but I'm based in Sydney. I started as a wedding photographer, so I did a lot of weddings, families, and I was up to one point which is like the now what, right? Now what? Like after doing all those weddings. And then I pivoted myself to doing videography. That's when my content creation sort of like starting. I did vlogs and I ended up doing like a lot of commercials as well. By the way, my camera Z6 is the go-to camera for me right now, but I also use D750.
Awesome. Okay, Kristine, tell me more about yourself and what you shoot. What percentage of video do you do? Did you always start off as a videographer? And do you still shoot stills? And what percentage of work is stills compared to video?
So at the moment, I'd say that my work is about 50-50 actually. So I first started off as a photographer. So I was working only on my Z50. And then it was during the time that I wanted to pivot my career that I picked up a vlogging camera, because I realized that the pivot that I wanted to make required a bit more of explanation. So I started a YouTube channel and I thought, what's the best way to do this? Oh, I should get a camera where I can see myself so I can produce my own videos easily. And so I started vlogging, which is, I would say it's fairly different from being a videographer because to be honest with you, I feel like being a vlogger, you don't need to start off with very good technical skills. You actually just need to have the camera so that you can talk. Vlogging stands for video blog. So it's more about the presentation around it. And it was after that, it was after vlogging that I picked up more video work, because it was because of vlogging that I started to understand how a camera worked for capturing movement. And and so that's now led to about 50% of my work. Actually, 50% of my work is still vlogging, so I'm still not a videographer. But that doesn't necessarily prevent me from working with brands. It's its own niche. So video content creation is its own niche.
Okay, Gigi, what about you? So you've started as a photographer and then moved into videography?
About the percentage, I would say 50-50 still at the moment. I'm still doing a lot of weddings, family photos. For wedding videos, that's something that I haven't got into yet. I guess I can. Some people have been asking me, but I still enjoy doing photos in weddings. But why I got into video is, as I said before, I've been shooting photos, and then at one point I was like, okay, now what? We all need progress, right? And I had a drone. I still have it. And then when I, look at the footage from the drone, it's like so smooth. And when I put it together with my poly video skills at that time, I was like, why is it so much different? My videos looks like very shaky, it doesn't look as good, as smooth as the drone videos. That's when I started doing videos and learn more. And my ideas of doing video is like, I want that to be as cinematic as possible. So that's when I started, picking up video camera. And when Z6 was launched, I was like, my jaw dropped. This is the camera that I'm looking for. Nikon mirrorless, great video camera. And it's basically started from there, and I started my YouTube channel, and no one watched that in the beginning, but I kept making it because that's the way to get better. And up to the point that people start contacting me saying that, hey, I like your videos, can you do this video for me for interior designing and a bit of bits and pieces. That's when I started doing a bit of a commercial work as well. One thing leads to another, basically.
All right, guys, let's talk about 2020. So, Gigi, what's 2020 been like for you? What do you think your plans would have been in 2020, and what are they now?
Yeah, 2020, as everyone would agree, it has been what a year, right? Some people call it challenging, some people call it interesting. To me, personally, I always try to seek opportunities in the most challenging moments, right? There's always opportunity, that's what I believe. So it didn't play out the way that I wanted to play out, because a lot of weddings, I've got like weddings booked, they're all either got cancelled or postponed. So it was up to one point that I sort of like pivoted myself. Instead of having a lot of wedding works, I got into more commercial works, because this is opportunities with content creations, right? Like in the moments like these, a lot of businesses actually need more promotion material, whether that's photos, whether that's videos, and that's actually the opportunities for people like us, like in the creative industry. So I was trying to aim for that, and I've got some commercial video jobs done. Although it didn't play out the way that I want to be, it actually worked out really well, at the end.
Okay, Kristine, on to you. 2020 is different to what you thought it would be. What does 2021 look like?
Originally, I had a lot more travel planned for 2020, and then that didn't happen. However, it actually opened up this whole new world that I'd been wanting to get into. It inverted my plan. So my plan was to do a bit of traveling in 2020, documentation, vlogging, travel vlogging, and then create some online sort of training content for a lot of people who ask me questions. And I'd always been planning that for later, when I have time. And now here I was with all this time and nowhere to go. And so I started teaching myself, or I started learning how to create more educational pieces, because I didn't realize until I started doing it that was going to be a process. To know how to do something versus to know how to teach how to do something they're similar but quite different. Anyway, so that's what ended up happening this year. And the other, one thing that I'm super grateful for was towards the end of our lockdown. So once, we could sort of go out a little bit more, there was something that I'd actually pinned as another to-do later. I think it was like 2017 or late 2016 that I had this idea. I was like, I'm going to do a series, and I want to call it Learn It Like a Local, Taste It Like a Tourist, where I would travel places and teach people how, because locals know everything about their city. So instead of experiencing it as a tourist, we'd go around and follow the tips of the locals. But then you'd have the eyes of a tourist, because you're in a city doing that. So as soon as the lockdown laws sort of relaxed a little bit and we were in a good position, I was like, this is the best time for me to put my passion and pair it up in a way that helps local businesses. So I realized now I had the skill set that could help other businesses whilst fulfilling doing what I like, and paired it together. So what's currently a 3-part series on YouTube, I'm just super happy that that's there now, because that's been on my mind for about 3 to 4 years, and it was because of this year that I had the opportunity to be able to do that.
Kristine, as your customers are concerned, did their plans change, and did that bring about other opportunities for you?
It definitely brought along other opportunities for me. So my existing customers, a lot of them are already internet based. But during this lockdown period, I had more of an influx of new customers. So brands and businesses that realized that, hey, we actually need content more than ever now. And so it was due to the times that my work became even more relevant. I guess the way that I was impacted was starting to understand, how do I manage this? How do I manage? I don't know that I expected a lot more work, and I was operating sort of as a solo operator, and then immediately it's I had to figure out how to work remote, how to sort of have more teammates, how to work with a team remotely and have more teammates to be able to help me facilitate that new work. It was great. It was like a crash course into growing your business. It was, in the thick of being in the thick of it all at the time, I felt stressed. But when I look at it now, I feel super happy that that happened because, you know, sometimes it's almost better when you don't know what's about to come because it makes you do it. So yeah, it was, you know what, it was a positive. Like in the business front, it was a good thing.
Gee, we speak about positives that have come about from the pandemic, and one of the things that's quite interesting for me is the amount of influx of work that's now coming to creatives. And now we've got creatives not saying, where is the work? But they're now saying, how can I cope with the workload? How are you managing that workload that's now upon you?
Well, so far, you know, at the moment, it's still manageable, but I do every now and then, you know, depending on how big the workload is, you know, I find another people that I can subcontract with, you know, whether that's an editor, whether that's shooter, but as Kristine said, you know, work as a team.
So Kristine, we've seen localism sort of come to the front here, where we're not allowed to travel outside of states, and we're starting to explore our own local areas. Having strong relationships with your customers and a local knowledge of your areas, has that allowed you to build a stronger relationship with your customers?
Yes, absolutely. It's helped me build stronger relationships with my existing clients and new clients. I think that there was something about this year that kind of really made each other appreciate what we have to offer the service sphere. So, you know, before this happened, I guess maybe we were sort of operating as a machine. Like, I know what you do, you do what you do, you're a business, I'm a business. But this year that transformed into not I'm a business, you're a business. It's more like we are a community. We're a team community, we're a local community, we're service providers, and it was almost like business was a natural byproduct of having strong relationships with people and being able to provide them the assistance that they needed through the skill sets and the services that you know, as creatives that we provide. But can I also say, I also saw what these local businesses, what actual impact they had on the community, what positive impact. You know, when lockdown was in full force, we really started to miss these businesses that we would visit on a regular basis. It was almost like we took them for granted. And then when we didn't have the opportunity to go and visit them, we really missed them. So to be able to sort of bring an element of that into a space to show people, hey, we're still here to serve you, we'll be here when everything comes back to normal. That was really nice. I think a lot of the ways that we serve each other as people and members of the community really shone around this time.
We're going to now move towards, I think we've covered 2020. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. It's nice to have that as a reference point, and I do agree with you, Kristine. I think that we went through a period where, I know with my local cafes, they saw us as their local visitors every day, and we weren't there, and they were missing us. They were missing us, and we were missing them. And I think it was really nice to see. And now we're seeing that really strong bond between customer and the businesses that we would visit on a daily basis. So it's really nice. Some of the messages.
Exactly. It's not about the money making thing, right? It's more like a lot about the relationship as well.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the way that probably transpires to your business too, because it's exactly what we just said. Those really strong relationships that you had and maintained before 2020, now I think potentially are stronger. Okay, so we've discussed customers. Now let's talk about the creative briefs you get from them. Kristine, we will start with you. What's your approach to a creative brief? How do you break it down? And how do you then progress to the next stage of actually putting that creative brief in place?
So the first thing that I want to know at the beginning of a brief is what the ultimate goal is of a certain piece of content, because that really drives the rest of the pieces of the brief. You know, the shots, the tone, the length, even whether we're going to shoot it in horizontal or vertical. If part of the goal is for this content to be used as an Instagram story ad, then that tells me that I'm going to be shooting in vertical, and automatically in my mind I'm thinking Instagram stories operates in 15-second bursts. So how am I going to, you know, what are the pieces, what are the shots, and what are the words that need to be said in order for that to happen? So ultimately the goal drives that, and then the creative comes shortly after.
Okay. let's just have a look at that. You mentioned two things there that are very interesting to me. We're in this space where we're creating different formats of video, horizontal and vertical, but you're also shooting to much shorter time frames. So let's say that 15-second Instagram style video compared to traditional sort of format, which might be a 2 or 3 minute video. How do you approach a 15-second brief compared to, let's say, something that's a bit longer?
That is a very good question, because here's the thing. People automatically think that if it's a 15-second clip, that the amount of shots that you're going to have is automatically less than a 2 to 3 minute clip, but not necessarily. It depends on what the brand wants. So let's say if the brand's tone is very fast, very poppy, very powerful, boom, 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 you can fit in 15 shots in that. So I may manage that still, depending on like what the brand is, what their tone is. But if we were talking about how to break down the amount of shots, actually I would say that it's actually the brand's tone and their target market that will drive how we manage, like what sort of shots go in there. So in essence, what I would say is how I manage the shots for a 15-second clip versus a 2 to 3 minute to 8 minute to 30 minute clip still is driven by what the existing brand's tone, goal, and message is. So it's still the same format. It just tells us that, you know, a 15-second clip might be, we might be showing 0.3 of a second, 0.5 of a second, you know, bursts of images or movement, versus, you know, that same shot being sort of, how do you say, extended for a minute or 2 minutes, because you can still kind of do the same thing. Again, it depends on the goal. So you probably tell, like with these things, we'll always go back to the customer's goal, because that will drive how we technically manage the shot list. So it's still the same. It's just like the final result will be like, okay, are we going to show microseconds, or are we going to be showing a full second, a full minute, a full 30-second, you know, bursts? Does that make does that make sense?
So I'm an older person than you young kids. For me, when I see those really quick 15-second videos, I really like that time where my eye gets to rest on something. Is that the product that we rest on? So we're building, let's say, an energetic brand. We work on these energetic 14, 13 seconds worth of just bang, 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 and then our eye rests on the final slide? Or do you have those resting moments in the middle? How do you work with a 15-second commercial in that sense?
Oh, I love to mix up the speed. So first we'll get attention in the first 3 seconds, maybe boom, 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 and then match up all of a sudden some slow-mo, and that shifts it up a little bit, and then that way you can keep the engagement within that sort of, and then you might even input some text, some typing text in the effects, just to be like we're still on mobile. But yes, we like to put in, I mean, depending on the type of content that we're delivering, but if it's an ad, then we mix up the media and speeds, because that impacts the final result. I mean, the thing is though, it's a tricky one to define, because for example, extreme sports ads work really well fast with like bursts of fast footage. But then I recently just did testimonial clips for a client where it's only a 15-second ad, and what we did was, you know, when you're capturing testimonials, it's like, oh, I loved working with that person because it was so fun and it's long. But what we do is we strip out the keywords like fun, loved it, and then we clip those together, and then at the end we add some text. And then, yeah, maybe something emotional. But yeah, I guess what you're saying is, do we let the eyes rest? Possibly, depends. Depends.
Okay, G, so how do you approach a creative brief from your customers? What's your thought process? When you first get the brief, what are you first thinking? And then how do you then get that to the end deliverable product?
Okay, well, the first thing in mind is pretty much similar with Kristine. You know, I need to know what the video's content is going to be used for, right? Whether that's for Instagram ads, whether that's for YouTube videos, which is going to be like a longer format, or whether that's for Facebook ads and all that. At the moment, I haven't shot vertical. I haven't had a client that goes vertical, but that is definitely a new world, right? Like when it first came out, people were like, oh, why is videos gonna be in vertical? But moving forward, there's gonna be a need for that, for sure, 100%. It's increasing now. So the first step is to find out what the clients really need, how they're gonna use the footage, the videos, the photo content. And then the second steps, then I'm gonna get them to make scripts. Depending on the length of the videos, I'm gonna get them to make script and the talking points, what they want to talk about, what they want to include, and then from that, then it gives me the whole ideas of what shot list that I need to do, right? And different clients, obviously, it's different. Like for example, if I'm shooting for like commercials, like interior designers and all that, the colors got to be spot on. The white balance got to be spot on. You can't, because they've got eyes for colors composition as well, those interior designers. So you got to pay attention very carefully about that. But if you shoot for something else, for example, like pre-weddings, weddings, I think the skin tone matters, but the overall color accuracy, it's not gonna be needed 100%. Right, you can be as creative as you want. You can have like false colors as part of the creative process. It's fine. Yeah. So it really depends on the client, and exactly what Kristine says. If the video has to be like 15 second or 1 minute in length, right? It doesn't mean that we need less shots. Sometimes it makes it harder sometimes to pack all the shots and all the needs that the client have into that short, time frame. That's basically the start, and we go from there basically with the client.
So when you're tasked with shooting something in a, let's say, 15-second vertical commercial, do you hold the camera in vertical orientation or portrait orientation, or do you still hold it horizontally?
I still shoot horizontal, and what I just keep in mind is that it's going to be cropped very tight, which means that the original shot will be wider. And the reason for that is because once you shoot something in vertical, you're almost limiting it to that specific use. You know what I mean? Because because of content and the need for content these days, we want to be able to make content as fluidly as possible so that it's easy to repurpose. So we'll shoot in horizontal and do a very wide shot to allow for a tight crop, but that will still allow us to use that footage for YouTube, for example, moving forward.
Look, I've never shot vertically so far, but what I do is I shoot the videos in 4K. So if there's a need for that video to be presented in vertical format, it still maintain that resolution. And so because if they use the vertical format, mainly it's going to be for Instagram story, anything that displays on the phone, right? Most likely it's going to be 1080p. That's definitely enough.
So shooting in 4K just gives you more resolution or more data to play with.
Videos, if you have the videos of 1080p resolutions played on the phone, that's going to look perfect anyway. So if you shoot in 4K and you crop it and becoming vertical, that's pretty much essentially worst case 720p. But most of the time you still get 1080p, so it's still going to look really good.
Kristine, you mentioned before about brand, and you have brands approaching you. Do you think your personal brand attracts certain brands towards you or certain customers towards you?
I think so. I think when you put yourself out there as a persona or as your natural personality, that's what people get to see, and therefore that's what will attract a certain type of brand. It's like, let's say if a brand wants to be seen in a different light, for example, let's say it's a serious brand, and then they want to be seen as something more lighthearted, then that kind of thing, which is I think people see, they think I'm a lighthearted person. Do I look like one of those? No, just kidding. But I think that let's say if a brand wants to go, okay, they're a serious brand, and then they want some representation on maybe a twist of a personality, then it ends up being a really great match, because you can put a tone to a brand based on how you are. When you initially put yourself out there as a person, then naturally that's what will come back to you. It's the people who are attracted to that kind of, to your way of being. And that's why when we talk about personal branding, there is no right or wrong. If you are in touch with sort of who you are and you're comfortable with the personality that you have, there's no need for you to tweak who you are to present yourself to the world of the internet, because there's something for everyone, you know what I mean?
G, how does your brand affect your customers and the customers that you approach?
That's 100%. I think you do need to put yourself out there. So, because if you only put your content out there, a lot of people can make exactly the same content, if not even better, potentially. But when you put yourself out there, your personal brand is something that really, really differentiates you from other creators, right? And it does attract a certain type of clients. Some clients might see me as boring. Some client might see me as like too energetic. Some clients might see me as just right? But at least that way you differentiate yourself from another creators and you attract clients, 100%.
Can I also just adding on to this? I think before the internet, social media, video, media for the internet, I feel as though there was an impression back in the day that the traditional impression is that when you are operating in a professional capacity and you are providing a service, then you must be that I hope that this email finds you well kind of personality, you know what I mean? To whom it may concern is the standard way of speaking. But I think what this era is showing us is that you can have your personality and you can be who you are, and you can be a very how do you say? Just a very well operating professional as well. So, you know what I mean? Where I feel as though that traditional perspective of how we can operate as professionals isn't anymore limited to wearing a suit and that kind of outfit. You can be a great you can be a great professional, you can do great work, and you can still be yourself. And I think that the internet is kind of breaking those barriers.
I think internet does reveal who we are, so there's no point you becoming that to whom my concern kind of person. At the end yourself gonna reveal throughout this internet. So just be yourself. That's gonna sell.
I think we've seen that too. We've seen a lot of video conferencing calls, and I know myself, there'll be at the start of when we were in lockdown, if there was any noise, I felt like I was ruining the podcast or the video cast that we were doing. But then people started to just accept it, that was the noise of family life. And we've seen videos of people being on TV sets effectively in their house, and their kids running through the background of it. And what used to be almost unacceptable is now a part of that person's life and part of that person's personality. And I think we've broken down some barriers, and I really like it.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because it's the digital world that I feel like it's humanized humans. And it's funny because the medium is digital.
That's cool. It's a good discussion we could go on with for a while. I like that, guys. Thank you very much. We're going to go to next. We're going to start talking about some elements of gear. All right, Kristine, I am someone who has picked up a camera and traditionally picked up a camera because I don't like to be in front of the camera. I prefer to be behind it. I see all these pictures of you, and you're loving this little flip out screen on the Z50 that allows you to see yourself, and you are constantly in front of the camera. You are the subject of your camera.
Very much.
Do you feel comfortable with that? Is it something that you really love, or is it a necessity of what you do?
I think I started off with curiosity, and then that very quickly turned into a love. And I think it wasn't necessarily because I love seeing myself on camera, although it might appear that way. I just feel that it's such a great medium to be able to communicate. And I think that even if you feel uncomfortable at the beginning, I think as though if your message supersedes the fear that you have of being seen, you'll overcome that fear. It's just a great tool to be able to communicate really, really well. So for that reason, I really, really do love it.
Okay, G, how do you feel about being in front of the camera? Do you prefer to be behind it or in front of it?
I used to prefer behind it. I think the reason I jumped in front of the camera because of the necessity of creating brand. Let me tell you a story here. Like when I first started vlogging, as Kristine, my experience, I've got a lot of cuts, a lot of ums, a lot of that I cut away. And I go, how do people vlog in public? And when I first winged my camera, that was D750, heavy, with the Joby tripod and a big ass mic in Darling Harbour in Sydney. I was like, I just gotta wing it. I vlog it. My hand was shaking, and not only that, my heart was pounding too because that was so scary. But I was just wing it and do it anyway. And I did the second time and the third time up to the point that I go, okay, as long as I know what I'm talking about, I'm just gonna focus on what I'm talking about and don't worry about what other people are thinking. And I've gotten used to it now.
Okay, so does having the big camera, holding it and doing vlogs, does that get you access to places you wouldn't normally get access to?
Well, that's a really good point, actually. Like, big cameras does attract attention, and even a lot of phone cameras now got like a lot better resolution. People still think that, oh, you got big camera, you must be professional, you can't get into certain buildings, like things like that. So when Nikon sent me this Z50, I was like very stoked with how small it is. It's stupidly small, it attracted less attention, for sure. So I'm definitely gonna use this a lot more than my, Z6 and the big ass lens.
So less shaking hands, less pounding hearts, and probably a little bit more easy on your body.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Especially because I shoot travel vlogs as well. So when you're traveling, when you're hiking, with this big camera, it's definitely takes a toll.
Kristine, what do you want to add to this part of the conversation?
I love a small, compact piece, so that's why the Z50 does it for me. Because the thing is, like, when you're capturing things and you're out and you're not necessarily, you might not have planned things. It's just good to be able to like take it out, get the content, and then pack it away. Nice, easy, no problems. Plus, I think about the size of my bag and whether it suits my outfit. No, I'm just joking. But
You are not joking.
honestly though, I thought about that at the beginning. I was like, all right, if I carry all these cameras, does that suit my outfit? Priorities, guys.
I can say that photographers have more bags than probably most females have handbags. As a photographer myself, I've got a garage full of bags, and you always need a different bag for a different occasion for the different thing that you're going to shoot.
Yeah, good to know that I'm not alone.
You're definitely not alone.
Actually, what struck me with that too, with the Z50, was and we're talking about bags here, but I actually needed to go and get different bags because I needed to buy smaller bags because the bags I had were too big. And that was actually quite refreshing from my point of view as a camera that was a travel camera that I could take with me that produced amazing results. And I could change the little bag that I had to something that was really quite small and compact. Particularly when I go hiking, riding my mountain bike, that was a real plus for that camera. How does it feel for you guys being in the field and being able to take less gear? Kristine, we'll start with you.
I love it. It's the best. It is, because when you're mobile and you're always out and around, when you think about the size of your bag all the time, it's actually something that is on your mind. Is my bag too big? Is it going to fit in this compartment? And then when you have to carry a few of them, it's actually part of your workflow. So on a serious note, it's actually part of your workflow. And if you can make your workflow a lot more smooth and a lot less hassle, then like 100% for it. That's why when you were talking about the small bag, I'm like, yes, Chris, I get you. Yeah, it's all about workflow, I think, and the leanness of your equipment actually plays a big role.
Excellent. That's really cool. Thanks, Kristine. Gee, bags are probably not a fashion accessory for you, but have you had to change your bags? And certainly using the Z50, has that allowed you to be more nimble?
Yeah, well, my bags won't change, and I still use my backpack, the same backpack that I carry, the Z6. But the fact that Z50 is like heaps smaller, it's actually helped a lot, logistic-wise, weight-wise as well. So especially I've got 2 kids, right? When I'm driving around, traveling and vlogging at the same time, you know, sometimes I find it difficult to find the safe spot for this Z6 and this big lens. But now with the Z50, you know, it's easily fit basically anyway. Right? Plus, with the ease of logistic, it's gonna let me create more content as well. Huge difference.
Let's talk then about lenses. What lenses do you traditionally use on the Z50?
With Z50, I still use the kit lens for now, but I do also have the 85mm 1.8, the Z lens, and I've got another Z lens 24-70 2.8, which I love. That's probably the most used lens lately. Probably like 80% of my vlogging shot with that lens before Z50. But when I travel around, I also like to carry my F lens, the 7200 as well, because they're like beautiful compressions.
Yeah, stunning lens. And so you're using that F mount lens with the FTZ adapter?
Correct, correct.
Kristine, what about lenses for you?
For me, on the Z50, I still use the twin lens, so the twin lens kit actually. It's so handy. So it comes with a 16-50, and that's the one that I use the most. As you can see, that's what I'm using right now. It's pretty wide. But then if I need to get up close and personal, or let's say if I'm out and about and I want to capture something that's quite far away, shall I show you? I'll show you. I actually need to take it out because I forgot. I know it's up to 200. Where does it start?
55, was it?
55-200, yeah.
Oh, it's 50 to 250.
Oh, 50 to
that's
50.
why it's so this. But look at it. It's still compact.
Perfect.
Like, that's my face.
Very cool.
Yeah. That's what I use for scale, but yeah. But look, it's pretty compact because I don't know if you, G, you already know this, but the reason why it's extra compact is because it locks. So when it's like this, you know, you're not able to shoot, but that's what keeps it. Then you unlock it, then that sort of like activates the lens. It allows you to use it. But how good is that? This can reach so far. Yeah, like it's crazy. So it's still from the twin lens kit, and it's such a good starter. It's such a good pack.
So, G, you've had some experience with the Z5 as well. Tell us about how the Z5 feels, and particularly being a Z50 user and also a Z6 user, what does the Z5 feel like?
Well, Z5 definitely sits in between, right? That's a great entry-level full frame. So if I prefer full frame to vlog, I will use Z5 because of the size, and also the kit lens is pretty small. And the kit lens actually, you know, you would think like kit lens, but it's actually tacky sharp. It's beautiful. I enjoyed using the Z5 a lot vlogging when I had that. But the only downside to it is it doesn't have the flip screen, so I can't really see myself. So it's similar to Z6, right? Yeah, but overall that was a really good experience with Z5.
So let's talk about how the Z5 feels for your stills photography.
So with the Z5, you know, a lot of people comparing Z5 to Z6, you know, because of the sensor and all that. But when I tested it on a field, I actually brought that into the Blue Mountains at night. I brought it into the Seacliff Bridge at night as well. You know, intention is to shoot astro. And also nighttime at Circular Quay, you know, in Sydney. So the low light capability is actually surprising. You know, people think that it's probably not as good as Z6, but it is still surprisingly good. So I've got some photo samples of me doing the astro, and also shooting Sydney Harbour at blue hours. And when you zoom into that photo, it's actually very sharp as well.
You've mentioned sharpness and quality of image quite a few times, and the beauty of the Z series is the Z mount, and that Z mount, the way that it's been designed, it just makes for a much sharper image across from corner to corner, a much clearer image, much brighter. And also the benefit that Kristine can be using her Z50 and have the same lens then that goes onto the Z5 or the Z6. That Z mount is uniform across all of the Z series. It's pretty good.
Right, exactly. And it's got the same focus tracking, you know, so it tracks your face really well. So
spot on. And it's no good for Kristine because you can't see yourself with the flipping screen.
Damn. Hey, but you know what? I used it as a BTS camera one time. It was so great because, again, the size. And you know what? I actually showed it on my Instagram stories because I've got a few people who are also content creators who who watch, and they said, "What is that camera?" And I was like, "It's a Z5," and they go, "It's so sexy." And you know what they were replying to? It was the part where I actually opened up the little compartment for the double memory card storage. Because, okay, the D750 has the 2 memory card slots, and I didn't expect that from such a small camera. So when I opened it, I was like, "Oh, what a pleasant surprise." And then I showed it on Instagram stories because it's features that bring me excitement. But it turns out other people are excited by that too.
And certainly one thing that struck me about the Z series has been the battery performance. We're able to shoot, and we're recording this here on Z50s, which are effectively using one battery. The Z50, Z5, Z6, and now the Z6 II, Z7 II, the performance of the battery has been very surprising. Do you guys...
Right, yeah, I forgot to mention that. Definitely the battery life on Z5 is better too. Yeah, and the dual cut slot, that helps a lot.
So are they the key features for you, G, or the key features of the Z series for you has been the battery performance and now the dual card slots of the Z5?
Correct, yes. There's a lot of peace of mind goes into that.
Kristine, the battery performance of the Z50, how have you found it out in the field doing commercial briefs?
It's great. I will always carry spare batteries, you know, always. But what that just means for me is that I have a lot of battery life, because as it is, you can just keep going for so long and then you swap, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's excellent. I don't know what else to say. I love it.
Okay, G, let's talk about astro. Let's talk about nighttime shots, night landscape shots, your experience with the Z5. I've seen some amazing shots, and we've got some amazing shots of your astro and nighttime photos here. What are the benefits, the key benefits of the Z5 that make it such a great astro or nighttime photography camera?
Okay, well, first of all, you know, it's great camera, take a sharp lens. I've said that, I'm saying it again. And the key benefit, especially when you love astro like me, is it's got dual card slot, and with a dual card slot you can actually use the both cards as the same identical copy, or you can actually use the second card as a backup or overflow, right? And when you do astro, especially when you do time lapse like me, you know, you can sit there for hours just waiting for the camera to capture the time lapse of the stars going by. Z5 actually allows you to plug in the USB as well to power the camera. So that way it's another peace of mind, you know, so you don't have to rely on the battery that is on the camera. You can just plug in the power bank, basically. Yeah. And when I did the astro, you know, normally I use the wide aperture lens like 2.8, right? But the astro that I shot when I had my Z5, that was actually using a kit lens, because the intention was to test the kit lens. So that was at f4, and from memory the ISO was 5000, but it still turned out great.
I think that's a great message too, that in the past kit lens were referred to as the cheaper alternative, and certainly they're less expensive than, let's say, the 24-70 2.8, but the quality that we're getting out of them again is a testimony to the Z mount and the quality of light that's passing through that lens and hitting the sensor. The quality is amazing.
Yes, absolutely. There's no excuse. No excuse about the gear, guys. No excuse.
Kristine, we're going to talk about getting started. So how do you get started? G referred to it before, that he started a YouTube channel and no one was watching. I think I'd be the same. I'd start a YouTube channel and no one would be watching. You have a great course that we do on Nikon School Online, which is essentially about getting started in the industry, and your tips are amazing. Just run through a couple of those tips now on how to get started and how do we build an audience.
Yeah, for sure. So to get started, you have to start. You have to, because YouTube is, you have to have the content, and you will improve along the way. But to help you get started, let's consider that. I'm just trying to think back to what I felt like when I first started. I also started from zero. I think we all start from zero. And I was first a bit nervous about talking to the camera. Yes, I really was, even though I was excited about it. So my first tip is, if you feel a little bit of nerves approaching it, or you even feel like you don't even sound like yourself, or just for some reason you're feeling a little uncomfortable, the first thing that tweaked my mind was, okay, just imagine that only one person is going to watch this, and that person is someone that you know really, really well, like your best friend, or just someone who you don't care if they judge you. But it just will help bring out your more natural speech, your more natural tone, and you're not really just thinking that this video that you're making is going out to the ether. And you know, because I think when you don't know who you're speaking to, that's the thing that makes you automatically feel uncomfortable, because you don't know how you should sound and what you should say. But when you think about that it's just that one person, then it makes you flow a lot more easily. If it helps to script, you can write a script, but for me, what I find most effective is to write dot points instead, because remember, for YouTube, it's a pre-recording, so you can edit it as much as you want. So you don't have to memorize anything, you just have to know what you're going to be talking about. The other thing is that, remember, if you're creating content for a platform like YouTube, it's, in my opinion, one of the best, and it's a platform where you can really grow, where you can calculate your growth, because it's a search engine. It's a search engine with social media functions. It's not the other way around. It's not a social media platform with some search functions. That means that everybody has an equal opportunity to grow, as long as you understand that YouTube operates on words, because it's a search engine. So when you're making your titles, think about what your audience would type in order to find your video. So think about what you type in. Let's say how to cook eggplant. You know, so if you're going to do a recipe show, like a cooking show or something like that, think about what your audience would type in, and that will help them be able to find you. That's how anybody has an equal chance to be able to grow a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I do remember a good mate of mine, one of the first things he would always say to me is, just do it, just put the content out there, just put it out there, regardless. And we now know that that content doesn't have to be from a production studio with $1 million budget. It's quite simply content. And what I loved about your course, Kristine, was it taught me exactly what you just said then, that people are not watching these videos because of their production value, they're watching them because of their content. And I think that's a really strong message.
I was shocked when I saw my, not shocked, but I'm like, whoa, when I look at my first videos. So one of the shots in this screenshot is my very first video, and that was filmed on the D750. So I couldn't see myself. I had no lighting set up. I didn't know what room to film in. I just had to pick a room in the house that had some light. And then and then the light started going down. So my video was like started bright, and then it started getting dark, and I was like, you better hurry up, Kristine. But that didn't stop, you know, the growth, which is crazy. So it really isn't about just being perfect. It's about just do it, because in time you'll learn. And social media, YouTube, it's a forever thing. You're not going to run out of opportunities to improve your quality. It's actually quite cute looking back, and you're like, oh, look where I began. Look at that eyeliner. It's like everything improves. It's not just your production quality. You start to go, oh, what can I do? This is going to sound strange, but I'm like, my eyebrows need a little bit of help, you know? And so it really rounds your whole, it's not just like your production quality. It's a full rounded like development process of your speaking, your communication, your skill set, yes, of course, your production set, yes, of course, but it's full rounded. It's definitely not what it appears at face value. It's deeper, for sure.
That's wonderful. Okay, G, let's talk about maybe not your eyeliner and your eyebrows, but
I think I need to get that as well.
How have you seen, you know, starting out? You started with no one was interested in your YouTube channel that you thought of. Now you're at a different stage. How did that progress?
Well, my YouTube channel, you know, the subscriber count is not as big just yet, you know, but it's growing. And I think advice for people starting out, right? I feel that the content that has value, like how to cook eggplant, right? If it's got entertainment value or information value, that's gonna attract people, right? But let's talk about the mentality as well. Like when people are starting out, there's two things, the major barriers that I think like stopping people. Like one thing is like, and it happened to me too, you know, I worry about what other people think about me. Up to this moment, I still don't like looking at myself in a camera, in front of the camera. So still a little bit awkward sometimes, but you have to overcome that barrier. You know, don't worry about what other people think. To help that out, then to me, and maybe it helps for you as well, is to make a script. Because the more that you know what you're talking about, you know, the more you love what you're talking about, it helps for you to let it flow naturally in front of the camera. So that's the first barrier. And the second barrier that I think is like people tend to want to be perfect, right? I think that's more like the internal. It's like, don't wait until it's perfect, because everything that's perfect starts from imperfections, right? You just need to start, just do it, because you will learn as you go, as Kristine said, and you'll grow from there. And your version of perfect might not be the version of someone else's perfect anyway. And your version of imperfection might be perfect to someone else, right? So yeah, just wing it, man. Just do it.
And can I just add to that as well? I think one of the things that people forget is that you actually have value to give people. A lot of the time people ask me, oh, but the topic that I want to talk about, it's just a whatever topic. And I always say to them, it might feel like a whatever topic to you because it's very natural to you. But that you have can help people. So when you realize that what you have can actually help other people, whether that might be through information, entertainment, it's there. It's not, once you put yourself out of the whole factor, like once you put how you look and how you sound and put that out of the equation and put on the forefront what it is that you're doing in service of people who are able to receive that content, it just makes the world of difference. So never think that what you have to offer is too small or too niche, too unpopular, too boring, because that's definitely not the case.
Agree, 100%. You know, I do feel from my videos as well, my videos that's got more information rather than, you know, the videos that I just make it for fun, you know, but the videos that I posted that got more information, they actually attract more attention, even though the production quality is just like, you know, to me it's average.
I think a classic example of that is Kristine. You sat down and made a video about you drinking celery juice for 10 days. So I think that's interesting. If you sit there and think, I'm going to make a video of me drinking celery juice for 10 days, you sit back and think, who's going to be interested in that? But actually, I think from your reports, it's one of your most successful videos.
It is. I think that was the actual video that got me, that YouTube picked to choose me as a creator on the rise. So it came up on the Explore feed and I was like, wow, of all the videos that I make, that I put all this effort into, the one of me drinking celery juice with the worst possible quality is the one that got it up there. Like, how crazy is that?
Great example.
But it just goes to show you, like, sometimes you want to be able to predict what you think is going to work, but then sometimes you might just do something on a whim and you're like surprised. That's the thing that people are interested in.
Well, also that video broke down barriers, I think. It broke down a lot of your personal barriers and we got to see you for who you are. And it was very personal, but this is Kristine, you know, and I really love that video. It's great. Gee, has there been a breakout?
Like, what was it that was personal? Guys, you'll find out.
No, well, you're talking about diet and you're talking about how drinking something affects you personally, and I think that that's really interesting because we want to be told those things rather than here's an ad for a celery juice, you know. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, it was. It was like, you know what? When I make videos, sometimes I think about like what I would have liked to see, the kind of information that would have helped me make a decision on certain things. And that goes for health and wellness as well. So when I'm looking for some things, for example, and mainstream media hasn't covered it just yet, you know, I haven't found the solution or I haven't found the answers, that's really when I start, you know, digging deep in the internet, trying to find someone who's gone out there to be able to share that information from a personal perspective.
Probably also a reflection of your previous job as a flight attendant. You have this persona that is very much, here is the brand that I'm wearing, the face that I'm wearing. But then behind the scenes, when you've been on those long haul flights, you see the flight attendants and how halfway through the flight, they just almost let their guard down because they're just exhausted. And it's exactly what we're seeing here. Those flight attendants whose guard is let down become more personable and yeah, probably a nicer interaction.
Oh, that's a good reminder. Thank you.
G, let's talk about your videos. So is there a video that's a breakout video for you, something that was really successful that you maybe saw as a recipe or a platform for developing more videos around that one?
Well, a couple of videos, yes. Like as far as travel videos, like the from Sydney to Uluru, road trip, like things like that, that attracts a lot of attention because obviously people want to know. Like not many people driving from Sydney to Uluru, potentially. So that that's going really well. Also, my review on the Z5, my unboxing and review on the Z5, those two videos attract a lot of attention as well. And a lot of people asking me questions, and I try to engage with them all, because that way I'm actually learning as well, with the wordings that they use that I've never heard of before, I started learning that way.
Let's talk about Playcation and this wonderful competition that we've got going at the moment, but also regardless of whether there's a competition that starts, stops, finishes, we have a future of taking really cool photos around the home. And for me, I would have been out diving, scuba diving with turtles, with other animals, but I couldn't. So through the COVID lockdowns, I was able to play around with my gear in my swimming pool and take photos of turtles. G, we'll start with you. You may not have been on a film set with superheroes, but your photos are quite amazing. So tell us about how you created your amazing photo.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, I've been wanting to take photos of Legos because I've got plenty of them, but never got a chance until the lockdown, and I was like, too boring, right? So I put this thing together. I visualized something in my head about how I wanted the photo to turn out. So it's a fighting scene. So with the fighting scenes, there's a lot of element that's going in, right? There's explosions, there's messy set, and also there's a lot of movements basically going on. So I created this scene. The idea is to basically to make the fighting scenes look as cool as possible. So what goes into play is that's actually on my dining table. So I made a bit of a mess. I fixed it up though. So I spread the dirt on the dining table. I put in all those mini figures on that as well. And I use sparkles basically to represent the explosions happening. So I got my daughter help me out with the sparkles. That's why you could see like there's about 4 sparkles there in the background. That was shot using the Z6 at 70mm lens, 24 to 70 2.8. But honestly guys, like any cameras or any lens can actually do the same shot. With these fighting scenes, I also add a bit of a movements like the motion blur into some of the characters, just to represent they attacking each other. And run some sparkles, chuck in some dirt. And one thing that didn't work out is I was trying to make the scene where the wheels actually flying up in the air, right? So as I was shooting, I was actually throwing in some Lego wheels down the scene, but it ended up always knocked down all those characters. So I have to rebuild the scene again. So that didn't work out. But overall, what you can see there, that's still pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with that.
It's an awesome scene, and I think it got me. I looked at this one. There's several others quite similar. It showed me that there's plenty of Lego collections out there, and plenty of people who are into superheroes.
Yes, love it.
It's wonderful too. We see a lot of bird photographers or a lot of photographers taking time to explore their backyards as well. And this
one thing as well that I add, if I can, just forgot about the lighting. So to make it look dramatic, the lighting needs to be right as well, because lighting plays a big role. So I actually used the SB700 from the top down. So that's why you can actually see the heads of those characters. So top-down shots just make it more dramatic.
Kristine, your Playcation experience, do you want to talk through that for us, please?
So when I saw the brief, it actually made me think, okay, how do I get creative video-wise in a house? And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to kind of make a film of making a film. So she's like talking about making a film, but she's actually filming that whole scenario. And then I just wanted to play with a lot of things that concepts that I had seen but hadn't necessarily applied myself, like quick transitions, outfit changes, change of pace, where you go from filming the idea of filming a film and then actually making a film, and then incorporating that things that I love, particularly like destinations, tours. So I put all those, I wrote this down. I was like, what are the things that I want to try? And then I looked at that paper for so long and I was like, how? It took me a while actually to brainstorm what this was, and I think a huge part of it was just for my own satisfaction to see, like, how would this play out? Like, am I capable of doing this? So it was almost like a little challenge. And then when I actually saw it come together, I was like, oh, when I did a transition, I was so excited because like, oh, it worked. And then it showed me like how to do a transition, because I'd always seen videographers doing it. And like I said, because being a vlogger, it doesn't necessarily mean like you know how to make cinematic videos and you don't necessarily know how to do all the cool transitions. So that's kind of the way that I approached it. I wrote down a few different aspects that I wanted to try, and then I had to ask myself the question, like, can you execute this? And then actually went ahead and sort of did it. So I divided my script into different parts. So I was like, okay, if you want to incorporate outfits, write down how many outfits you want to do, or how many outfits do you need for this specific script. And then part of the thing that I wanted to do was actually do outfit transitions like you see on Instagram Reels lately, like it's a trend right now. And so doing that by vlogging. So I segmented my script bit by bit based on where the piece is in the whole video. So is it part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4? And then I segmented the bits and pieces that I needed for that, such as outfits, the transition. I even wrote out like what I needed to do to make a transition work, like where I needed to pick up a movement and then like redo that movement so that it carries on smoothly. So it's a great learning experience, but at the same time, like a really great way to stretch creativity. Because you know, when you get used to doing something in a certain way and you just get comfortable with that, it's easy to just stick with that. But it was a great like for me, a great personal challenge. And to be able to execute things that, you know, you've only known conceptually and then put it out and make something of it. That's the mindset that I guess that I went into with creating that piece.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's actually a good insight into the process of how to make a content piece like this. I like what you said too, because you're constantly growing, you're constantly learning. One of the photographers we've spoken to a bit on our Nikon School Online says that if you don't keep doing that, you become stale. Not only stale for yourself, but you become stale in the eyes of your customers, your clients. And it's really an important message, is to keep growing and keep trying new things. For sure. I think the other thing as well is in the learning process, don't worry about judging yourself too much, because you are learning. And when you're always like, you know, when you're looking at other trends and what's happening and what other people are doing, it's very easy to get caught up and say, but my quality is not like theirs. My transitions aren't as smooth as theirs. But when you remove that from the equation, the part where you're just judging yourself too much, whilst you're in a learning process especially, it can actually help you. I feel as that it can help you grow. Like if you just focus on getting better, because even when I was making that video, I noticed some mistakes that I made and I was like, oh, I don't know if that's going to be good. But then I thought, you know, all of the other elements that I wanted to worked. So if there's like one little mistake, then that's okay. Like I'm okay with that. And then I can pick that mistake. At least now I've picked up that mistake, and then moving forward, I'll know that that's something that I can work on. And if you look at your journey, your content creation journey as a learning experience, like you can really grow exponentially. So remove the judgment of yourself from the whole equation and look at yourself as someone who's learning and developing. And through that, it actually accelerates your growth because you're not busy. You're not busy judging yourself. You know what I mean?
100%. Totally agree.
Speaking of judging, do you have peers that you use as I guess, someone to reflect on your work, someone that you can go to and turn to and say, give me some advice here, do you work with other videographers, vloggers who give you that advice that you probably need, and you need it to be less polished, shall we say?
Yeah. You know, interesting question, because I feel as though I don't really ask other people about their opinion of my work. But in saying that, most of my work is published somewhere publicly. So if there's going to be any feedback, it's going to come from the audience, and that's the harshest, because people that you've never met on the internet who are going to give you that the comment section, they'll tell you the truth, because because I feel as though there's no filter on the internet. So even though I might not necessarily show my work to my peers, like my friends and that kind of thing, once it's out there on the internet, you'll know. And I think the best way, like when I look at feedback or comments, my first question that I ask to myself is this a criticism for improvement, or is this just a plain displaced sort of comment that has when you sort of read through the intention, what is the intention of this comment? Can this comment help me improve, or does this just do nothing? And then once you segment those, you go, okay, this does nothing, then so much is out of the way already. And then some of the other stuff is actually really helpful. So if I actually have some videos on the internet when I was learning how to do sound and microphones and Bluetooth mics. My sound is terrible. I just didn't know how to control the mic. And people will say, your mic is off. That sounds bad. It's rustling. And I say, yeah, thank you. I know. Since starting this video, my sound, I've started working on my sound. So, I guess it sort of takes a little bit of understanding though of how to receive feedback. And if you don't take it too personally and just segment, is it type A comment or is it type B comment? And if you know how to put those comments in the basket for yourself, then it will really help you manage the feedback. A lot of it's very constructive anyway,
That's actually a good life lesson too, isn't it? It's about compartmentalizing comments that people make to us, whether they're to try and help us improve or whether they are comments just for the fact that someone wants to say something negative. But second to that, I like the way you've handled that because... Sorry, you go, G?
Yeah, if I can add to that as well about the comments, all those, positive or negative comments. Like for me personally, I try not to be too happy when someone says, "You're amazing, G." At the same time, I don't want to be sad when someone says, that video is ugly, right? So I just basically stay on my lane, look at my previous work, what I need to improve on, and then just compare myself to myself yesterday, right? And get better that way. And all those comments, sometimes there are feedback, which is very valuable feedback that you need to listen to, you need to, get better on. But sometimes it's just purely judgment, right? If that's the case, just let it go, move on.
I often view some of those comments as a way that people don't know how to express their words in a way that's not offensive, and we are so close to our own work that we become so close to it that it's personal. So if someone makes a comment about, the sound needs to be improved, they're potentially trying to give you some advice to say your sound needs to be improved, but the fact that they may not have put it into words as nicely as they possibly could have. It depends on how we take it. And credit to you too, Kristine, and that moment where someone says my sound's bad, that's a great way to say, okay, I need to work on that. And what a great video to create is, here I had a problem and now I've overcome that problem. I think that's really great.
Thank you. And funnily, after that video, which had the terrible sound, I made a video about sound.
There you go. You turn it into opportunity.
Yeah, because that video actually taught me, I was like, okay, well, I should learn about sound, and let's make a video about, once I figure it out, let's make a video about it, so that it's kind of like paying it forward. Pay it forward. I don't see myself as a techie person, so sometimes when I look for tech help, I specifically, I need to find content that's easy to sort of understand. And when I see that it's not there, then I try to think, okay, how can I explain something in a way that someone like me, who's not a technical person, how can I make content that will help that person learn what they need to learn about something that's not their strength?
So G, I've got my shiny new Z5, Z6 II, Z50, and I want to be a multimediographer. I want to create video content and stills. What's your first bit of advice for someone that wants to just get started?
Okay, well, the same advice, so you need to overcome your internal barrier, which is, don't worry about other people's judgment. You need to take on feedback, but, judgment, don't listen to them. And also, work on yourself. There's no such thing as perfect, so don't let perfection stop you from doing. I mean, those two basically to help to put yourself out there, because the more you put yourself out there, the more you can actually attract new clients. Without doing that though, without overcoming that barrier, no one's going to know you. No matter how good you are, how much skills you got, no one's going to know you, no one's going to hire you, right? And once you've got your first client, by the way, if you can't get your first client, maybe messaging them directly. If you message like 100 people, 1,000 people, eventually someone's going to say yes, right? And start from there. When you first got your first client, provide values, right? Just ask what the intention of the content is going to be used for, and think in a way that you're helping them to grow their own business as well. Not just, okay, I'm going to create the content and that's it, right? So go a bit further from that perspective. That's what I've been doing, and that will then leave a really good impression of that for that client to refer you to potentially new clients, and snowballing from there.
Okay, let's start with you, Kristine. 2021, what does it look like? What does the future look like? And how are you going to move forward from here?
Good question, thank you. Honestly, I just think 2021 is going to be an amplification of what happened this year. I love what I do, so I actually want to say that it looks just like what it does now, but amplified. So more travel, or working with locals, I would say, working with a local community, that really opened up my eyes to what it feels like to work with a local community, and I love it. So I foresee much more of that. And being a little bit more in the education space, I think this is a space that a lot of people are curious about but don't have a lot of information in. So I want to be able to help educate and pay forward the things that I've learned from the industry so far. And yeah, in a nutshell, more of what's been going on this year in terms of work, not the other thing.
I guess you're very lucky in that sense too, that you've been able to take your niche or your product and adapt it to what 2020 challenges we had. But it didn't slow you down. It actually allowed you to create some other business opportunities. And now, as you say, you can amplify those business opportunities moving forward. I think that's a really wonderful, positive message. Okay, G, 2021 is going to be a different year for you. You're probably going to get more weddings. You're going to get more customers coming back to you as things are opening up. How have you adapted from what you learnt from 2020 and moving forward 2021 and certainly moving to the future?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've learned from 2020 is you need to stay flexible and you need to allow yourself to be able to pivot into new opportunities, right? So 2021, I've already got like a lot of weddings lining up, booked, ready to go. Personally, I'm still going to work on my videos. I'm basically want to cut down my weddings a little bit and more video production. Like my ultimate goals, and hopefully I can actually try to get my foot in 2021, is to shoot videos for music videos, right? So I need to start looking for music client musos to work with them, because I'm passionate about music. So I'm probably going to start working for a very small budget or free. I'm just being mindful that musicians got impacted by this pandemic as well. Just to help them out in exchange to my portfolio. That's what I'm planning to do in 2021, and being Nikon Z creator is like huge opportunities for me as well, so thank you guys for that. More commercial clients, basically just doing what I'm doing now, but just like Kristine said, just amplify from there. Travel. I might also reach out to some councils in some outback remote areas, because this is another opportunity too as well, right? Because of the lockdown or pandemic and all that, I see the increasing amount of the local states actually posting more advertising videos about the states. right? So that is an opportunity. So I might reach out to some councils, just say, hey, I'm a videographer, this is what I can do. You know, if you want to get some videos about your areas, all yours.
Awesome.
2021.
So dream gig for G is going to be some sort of music videography. Dream gig.
That's my passion. You know what, like that's actually my first thing that I thought was going to be my career, but it didn't work out, you know, with the band. So, you know, that was a few years ago. I started to do photography. I loved that. Here I am now.
Yeah, you've got plenty of time ahead of you too. Kristine, dream gig, if something came to you in 2021, what's your dream gig?
I think working with the city of Brisbane would be really great. I think, I mean, I've only been here 5-6 years and I've seen it grow quite a lot. But I really have like a love for the city. So a dream kind of scenario would be to have that kind of partnership with either the state or with either the city or the state. And to be honest with you, another dream thing that I put alongside that is to be able to educate at scale. So with my digital sort of courses, to be able to reach the people that I think it will really help. Because I truly believe that this is a space where people can make, this can sound so cheesy, but it's a space where people can really make their dreams come true. And so as G was saying, you know how you said, you know, my first dream gig was to like be in music. I automatically had the instinct to want to say, like, you might be surprised that you might start off filming for music videos for other people, but it may come around that you're filming your own, and it's not impossible. In this space, everything is truly possible. So a big part of my actual dream is to be able, the pieces that I'm making, the educational pieces that I'm making is truly geared towards that. So while I have my personal dream of working with the state, working with the city, I think that to see other people's dreams fulfilled because of creative work, which before this era was it was known to be a very hard sort of place to be sustainable and thrive in. Whereas now, being a person who came from like, oh, I need to get this job and no one's hiring me, it's so painful, it's so annoying, and to get into this medium and really see life change, it's like a big purpose for me. So that's my big dream for next year. Maybe starting now. But yeah, coming into it.
In my job, I'm blessed. I get to speak to amazing people through the Nikon School Online process. Today, I've spoken to some amazing people, being Kristine and G, both Z creators. It's been a pleasure being able to talk to you. G, final sign off. Where can people get to see you, speak to you more, and contact you? Okay, well, my website is www.red-imagination.com.au. But if you look me up on YouTube or Instagram, it's basically type in Red Imagination, it should come up. My Instagram is Red Imagination Adventure. So yeah, hook me up, you know, have a chat. Let's make a project. Sounds perfect. And Kristine, where do people go to find you?
Mostly on Instagram and YouTube. So my Instagram is Miss MISS Fernandez FERNANDEZ __ at the end. So Miss Fernandez on Insta, and on YouTube is, if you just search Kristine Fernandez, Kristine with a K. Kristine with a K, I'll pop up. Send me a DM, and I love getting DMs. I freakishly love like getting DMs because I get to meet a lot of people through the internet. So drop me a DM. And I love hanging out with you young cool kids, because DMs is another thing that I've learnt, so well done. I love how you're referring to young cool kids. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate the time with you. It is a pleasure talking to you. Kristine, I love doing the Nikon School Online courses with you. And G, it's been a wonderful pleasure to spend more time with you, and certainly getting to meet you. It's wonderful. Look forward to seeing more of your content online. From myself and everyone at Nikon Australia, thank you very much for joining the next chapter. We look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you very much.